Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate it with chronic disease? We all do. It's been programmed into us. But what if we flip that whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and our lives. Welcome to the place where chronically means healthy, wealthy, joyful, and ridiculously alive. Let's flip that script together. Today, we are doing something a little different. Andy, Min, and I have been hosting this show from the beginning, and it suddenly occurred to us that maybe you guys would like to get to know Andy a little bit. So I would like to introduce our guest today, Andy Nam, the founder of the Chronically Healthy Life show. So welcome, Andy.
It's so awesome to be on the other side and, be just myself.
Just yourself, which is, as long as I've known you, which is many, many years, that's all I've ever known you to be, is just who you are. That's amazing. So Andy is a functional longevity expert. And let's start, Andy, by tell us a little bit about how you came to be a functional longevity. I'd like to hear some of your story.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had an interesting, I guess you can call it an interesting journey into what I do today. This was definitely not what I dreamed of doing back when I was in high school. Right after high school, on the graduating year, I had a really bad car accident that sort of changed the trajectory of my life over the next 10, 20 years. But during that time, I didn't think it was that big of a deal because after all, we're on 18. And when you're young, you think you're invincible and you'll be able to bounce back on anything, right? So I was just driving through an intersection and I got hit by a 1-ton truck, like those U-Haul trucks that people rent on my driver's side. They ran a red light and hit me. And basically, I don't remember a whole lot else. I just know that it hit me on the driver's side. I got pushed into a light post. And then next thing I know, I just have flashing in and out. They're cutting me out of the car. And, they're ripping my favorite clothes that I bought from Hong Kong. I was like, man, my jacket. That's all I think I was thinking at the time. But it was like, in and out. And then I was in the emergency room and they said, oh, you got cuts here, you got this broken and, and you got internal bleeding. So it's sort of in and out. I don't even really, to be honest, remember a whole lot of what happened. But, believe in God or whatever, somebody's hand came in there and saved my life because when I looked at the car later, my car was actually in a V shape and my driver's seat was in the passenger seat. Oh. I don't even know how the hell I survived, to be honest, let alone have so little injuries that I had, right? Like I did bend my back, broke my collarbone, fractured my back. There's a lot of things that started getting worse over the next 20 years, which got me on the road of a lot of pain medication. And it sort of got me into chronic dysfunction. I got addicted to the pain pills. All of a sudden, I was just having headaches. I was having gut problems. I was just angry all the time. And, over the next 10, 20 years, working with different doctors and specialists, things just wasn't getting better. And by the time I was 40, 20 years into this pain and dysfunction, I was just asking my doctors, well, when's it going to turn around? And they said, well, Andy, you're doing pretty good. There's, it's probably going to get much worse before, they never even mentioned that it can get better. And, that's sort of when I said, there's got to be something better. And I, that's when I started looking into more holistic ways to try to get back onto my journey. Oh, it's got Milo. I love it.
This is Milo. He decided to say hello. So no doctors, they just said, oh, it's okay. And you just can't expect to get better.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like when you go there and you say, oh, they started me on Tylenol. Tylenol wasn't working, and Tylenol 3 that wasn't working, and then they got me onto Vicodin. It got to the point that, and then of course, maybe it's the brain fog, but I do not remember once of them telling me what the side effects of all this medication is going to cause. Right. Because like I said, I got IBS, I always had hay fever as a kid, which developed into full-blown asthma. Like my whole body was just literally attacking itself. And I was just in pain every day. Just to get out of bed. I couldn't walk, I can swing my legs off the bed just to get up like a normal person. I literally have to roll out of bed every day just to get out of bed. And it got to a point that, well, maybe this is normal, right? If the doctors, they're the doctors, they're telling you this is what it's going to be. Well, I believe them. And unfortunately, I believed them for over 20 years. And now 13 years, almost 14 years now, since I started on my journey back to health, it's like, man, I'm healthier now than I was in my 20s. I'm stronger, I'm faster. And I'm a little bit pissed off that no one showed me the way when I was in my 20s and 30s. Like, why did I have to suffer for 20 years, before I am where I am today?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So what started you on your journey to wellness? How did you come out of that? Oh, I think we lost Andy. Well, I can tell you.
I don't know what happened there. I'm so sorry.
I can tell you Andy's journey is a very, very interesting one. So what started you on back to wellness?
It's an interesting story. I have to give a little bit of backstory. It's so funny because nowadays, me and Minna's been watching a lot of catching on a lot of episodes of series, and they always talk about the backstory, right? The history of everything. And when me and Minna first started dating, we've been together since high school, right? And when we first started dating, she used to carry a Road and Track magazine, and on the cover was a Lotus Elise, a Lotus Esprit, actually, back in 1988, just dating us a little bit. And it was funny because back in the day, it was already like an $80,000 car. And when we first started dating, I said, yeah, I'll buy you one of those when we get married, right? Thinking nonchalantly as an 18-year-old, you say whatever you want to get the girl, right? And in my 30s, me and Minna, we've done a lot of businesses. And one of my business was the automotive business. And, there was a point where we're doing really well. And I was able to buy her a Lotus, when on her 35th wedding anniversary, right? So I bought her a Lotus Elise, and it was really funny when we first got the car, and one of our friends that babysit our cats, right? They're coming to her house, they open the garage, and they're not really car people. They thought it was a Ferrari, right? And he touches my shoulders, Andy, are you a drug dealer? I said, no, that's only a Lotus Elise, it's only like a $60,000 car, not a $300,000 car or whatever, but that's what it looks like. It's a sports car, really low, right? And I got that at 35, and for 7 years that we owned the car, we drove 12,000 miles on it. And it's not because we didn't want to drive it. We loved the car, right? Car was fast. It was, and I'm a car guy. The problem was when I get in the car, I cannot get out of the car. Right. And it was just getting worse year after year after year. So imagine, Minna just gets in, hops out, and, Minna already looks 20 years younger than me. And I'm dropping into the car, and am I getting out? I'm literally clawing at the side of the car and pulling myself out. And it just got so embarrassing to the point that, it doesn't make sense for us to own this car anymore. Right. So we ended up selling the car to this kid. And, it was, I met him at Starbucks because, I didn't want to get carjacked or anything like that. And, as he's test driving my car, he was being really nice about it. And I asked him, hey, what do you do for a living? He looked at me as a Vietnamese kid. We're in California. And he said, I sell drugs, Andy. And right away, I thought for sure, I was selling to some pot dealer or whatever. But, he just jokes. No, I sell high grade nutritional supplements. right? And I was saying, so you sell vitamins? Like literally in that tone. I was very skeptical, right? And he's, yeah, vitamins can do so much for you. Like he was so excited. I think it can help you. And I was saying, I've been taking vitamins, whatever. Are you going to buy my car or what? So he ends up buying the car, which is great. But a week later, he calls me up. Hey, Andy, we should talk. I really think these vitamins can help you. And to be honest, I was just a little curious, right? Like what, one, how is he making enough money through a vitamin company to buy my car? But two is like, he was actually very genuine about these vitamins. And company, I'm not gonna talk about the company, but I still use the company now. So if people want to reach out, it's probably the best vitamins in the world. But when we reached out in Starbucks, he was telling me about all these vitamins and how it can help me and from all my back pain and degeneration and stuff like that. And me and Minda were sitting there for an hour and he's trying to convince me to buy it. And she's giving me the shifty eyes. It's time to go type of deal. I said, okay, I'll just buy it all. Because he said, look, Andy, if you don't like it, nothing works, 30-day money back guarantee.
Oh.
Right. So I was thinking, in my mind, I was thinking, I'm just going to keep this kid happy. I'm going to buy it all, shut him up so we can leave because we're sitting there for an hour. I think it was a $1,200 order in vitamins. I've never bought that many vitamins in one shot. I bought every single one. And, and I just started taking the multi and the joint supplement. And, oh my God, like 2 weeks in, one day I just got up, I turned to Minna and I say, baby, something's wrong. And the last time I said something that, she said, oh, hold on, let me get ready to take you to hospital. Because last time I said that I had a kidney stone and I had to go to emergency, right? And I said, no, check this out. And I swung my leg off the bed and I sat up. And I was thinking, I don't think I've done that for the last 15 years, right? I was thinking, what the hell is in these vitamins? So that's really what started me on the journey that, what doctors been telling me, oh, just grab any vitamin off Costco, they're all the same. Well, they're not all the same. And that's sort of what got me interested on that journey. We went to the vitamin company, we toured it, and that's when I started saying, wow, there's a lot to learn. Like I didn't get fixed right away, don't get me wrong. But for me to be able to swing my legs off the floor, for something I couldn't do for 15 years. And, in the next 10, 12 years, I got my certification as a trainer. I got certification as a functional nutrition coach, learning from the best longevity biohackers and everything. And literally everything now is just for me is like, well, the body, it's this innate intelligence to heal itself. The only problem is most people think that you can use, the same thing that everyone else is doing, right? You're familiar with the 80-20% rule, right? So I think a lot of people, doesn't matter if it's a ketogenic diet, vegan diet, more exercise, less exercise, it works for 80% of the people. But for 20% out there like us that got damaged from a car accident or maybe had some degenerative diseases or, from genes that get activated from heavy metal exposure, for the 20%, these are the people that are suffering. And I was definitely not at 20%. So what the doctor's been telling me for 20 years, well, it worked for the 80%. It just didn't work for me. And really in these last 12, 13 years is like for me trying to figure out, well, what is missing to help this 20%?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Obviously high quality vitamins.
That's a start for sure.
So can you kind of tell, so the first time I ever heard anyone say the words functional nutrition, I was when I met you and Minna at that conference we met at. And why don't you tell people what exactly is a functional nutritionist?
Yeah, so, most people would hear of nutritionists or dietitians and stuff like that. And most of those people, like, they know a lot about nutrition, a lot about diets, and they'll get you to count micros, macros, how much protein, how much fat, and stuff like that, right? Hoping that nutrition is going to fix your body, right? Functional nutrition goes one step further. What they do is they look at root problems, right? Like everything happens for a reason. Like if you have a story, you can't just go to the end of the story and that's how you magically became a hero. Everyone has a journey from the very beginning. No one knows your journey. How did you get from here? Like, like Luke Skywalker, how do you start from a newbie all the way to a Jedi master? It doesn't happen overnight, right? Mm-hmm. So for us as a functional nutrition coach or functional nutrition practitioner, when we meet with clients and they're saying they're having these conditions, we don't treat the conditions. That's what doctors normally do. They'll give you a medicine to treat the condition, right? Your conditions got developed over time, and depending when, what happened in your life, it could even happen from your mom's life or your grandmother's life, right? So we really rewind the clock a little bit and figure out what's going on, why they are where they are today, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, it's like I said, it can be triggered from heavy metals exposure from the grandma, because heavy metals stay in your body for 3 generations. So, mm-hmm. there are a lot of things when it comes to functional nutrition that we look at. What are the root causes that started you on this declining journey? And then, we work on a detox protocol and a regeneration protocol to help you get back to kickstart that innate intelligence to heal yourself.
Yes, I love that, talking about the innate intelligence of the body to heal itself. That I think that's something that's being, just like chronic illness has been programmed in. I think that's being programmed into us. And it's not that our bodies can't, do that. They need help with.
Yes.
But we need the right help, not just covering up symptoms.
Great.
And so what else? So is it a combination of finding the right foods, the right vitamins, the right exercise for the individual?
Yeah, everyone is slightly different. I always like to say everyone's about individual. I love to get back into that a little bit, but let's get into some commercials.
Okay.
And we'll get right back. I love it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll be right back.
Imagine a life where every day is fueled by energy, vitality, and purpose. Where age is just a number and your best years are always ahead. Hi, I'm Andy Nam, certified functional nutrition longevity coach, best-selling author, and international speaker. After reversing my own chronic health struggles, I'm now on a mission to help you live longer, stronger, and of course to look younger. I combine biohacking, cutting-edge nutrition, and stem cell technology to unlock your body's full potential. So no matter where your starting point is, I'm going to guide you toward a chronically healthy life. Ready to reverse aging and take control of your future? Connect with me today. Your journey to longevity starts here.
When you look in the mirror, do you see skin that's just dry, tired, and stressed? It's time for a new ritual. Introducing Deep Love, the Blue Botanical Face Cream by Coolness. We've captured their tranquil essence of blue botanicals in a cloud-soft formula that deeply soothes irritation and restores your natural, healthy glow. This isn't just skincare, it's an act of self-care. It's deep love. Find your calm only at coolness.com. Scan the QR code now to visit our website.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life Show. We are here with our own Andy Nam, and he was just about to talk to us about being a bio individual.
Thank you so much for that, Kristy. Like I said, normally I run the back end of the show, so being being a guest and everything, it gets a little distracting. But yeah, it's interesting because when you talk to the allopathic route, right, like conventional doctors, they treat everyone with symptoms. So they assume that everyone, if you have a stomach upset, headache, or whatever, they almost have a checklist. You got this symptom, you got this symptom, they got a drug for this, you got a drug for that, right? But for every person that gets a certain symptom, they may have something else that got them that way, right? So for instance, just because you got a stomach ache, maybe you went to Mexico and you got food poisoning, right? You got a parasite from a fish, or some bad water, or maybe you are allergic to milk and you drank some milk and you got a stomach ache. Both of them give you a major stomach ache, give you major diarrhea, right? But they're two different causes, right? So it's really, really important when we're working with individuals and to look more at the root causes, like what caused them to where they are today, because things stack on each other. It's almost like a domino effect. It just gets worse over time. But where they started to where they are now, everyone has a different journey, like a different route, right? So that's why when I talk to people, it's like, yeah, we're all bio individuals. Yes, we all have a journey to get back on the route where we can start our bodies to repair itself. But we may all have to take slightly different steps, if that makes sense.
Well, that totally makes sense. I mean, just look at person A can be allergic to shellfish and person B has no problem with it.
Exactly.
So it has to be individualized.
Correct.
Yes. So then, now let's talk about the word longevity. I think you have a different definition of that word than most people do.
Yes, it's interesting because when people talk to me, and I always joke, it's like, me, man, we're gonna live to 150 and beyond, right? And right away I get that, that look is like, really? It's like you're gonna be live like the living dead, right? At 150, right? Like walking like the living dead, or being pushed around in a wheelchair, or being constrained in a bed, right? Because that's how people envision what longevity is. Growing old, you get weaker, you get frail, you become useless, you need to be taken care of, right? But for me, longevity does not mean that. There is a lot of studies. If you believe in the Bible, I'm not going into the Bible. If you believe in the Bible, people live hundreds of years before, like over 100 years, like maybe 500 years. I'm not going so ridiculous thinking that we can all live 300 to 500 years. But I think, honestly, we can live up to 150 years and beyond, because there are, people that are living beyond 100, and they're doing very basic things. They're just eating more clean. They're barely exercising, right? But their lifestyle habits are more ideal than the SAD diet, the standard American diet here in the US, right? But imagine, when I look at longevity, imagine if there are other things that you can stack. And I like to call this biostacking, right? Where you can stack a few biohacks on top of what these people are doing that are living to 100. Easily, you can add another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? So longevity to me is like living a freakishly long time, right? But one, keeping your flexibility. So you're not going to be falling down, breaking your hip, because that's what happens to most people after they hit 60. They fall down, they break their hip, and then everything goes downhill, right? That's a real thing. A lot of people don't realize that, and then, of course, breaking your hip is because you didn't have the proper nutrition, you weren't working out. There's so many things in going into that. But then you get your balance, you got your strength, right? And then you got your mindset. Like, you need a sharp mind, right? Like, that's the worst thing, is getting old and losing it, seriously, right? So for me, it's like having everything you are. So, under the ideal conditions, is like, most people are still pretty healthy in the 30s. I was not, but most people are healthy in the 30s, right? And imagine if you can stay 30 forever, right? You know, you may get a little more gray hair, a few more wrinkles here and there, but imagine if you can still stay in there and then you just sort of decline 1 or 2% every decade, not every year, every decade, right? And I think that's totally doable, right? You know, there are literally, unicorns that are doing it, and of course they got really good genes, they got a lot of things going on for them. But imagine if we do everything right, and everything right is different for every person.
Yes, that's right. I know that some people do brilliantly well being vegans.
Mm-hmm.
Other people cannot do it. They are they get sick, they look sickly, they can't function, and you have to listen to your own body.
Yes.
But what are some of these bio-stacking things besides the foundational, like healthy nutrition, which, eat clean, eat organic, lots of
Correct. Like that's the basic stuff. Our food is just not as healthy as it can be, right? We got, genetically modified foods, which just means that, chemical companies are acting as God to change your food. That's basically what genetically modified food is, right? Back in the day, everything is grown on the farm. No, everything is cleaner, right? So the food is a big part of it, right? What a lot of people miss is they may be eating healthier foods that they think is healthy, but because they have so many toxins, they're actually getting more toxins, like, pesticides and poisons that they're eating, but they're not doing anything to detox it out, like the heavy metals and stuff like that. So that's a very big part. And that's something, that was part of my second journey. My first journey was trying to get the nutrition from the vitamins, but it's like, I hit a plateau. What's going on? And then when I tested for heavy metals, my heavy metals were through the roof. I'm like, what the hell did that come from? Right. And that's when we started getting the heavy metal detox and pesticides out. And a lot of people, they skip that. They just think, well, one day I'm just going to, they're eating very unhealthy. And now I'm going to be vegan. I'm going to be carnivore, whatever. I'm just going to eat whole foods. And you think magically you're going to get better. No, you still put toxins in your body for 20, 30 years. They don't just magically flush out. Right.
Yeah.
So the detox part is important. And then when we're talking about biohacking, right, there are a lot of things that you can do to stimulate your body to repair itself faster, right? If you elevate your oxygen, for instance, right, through hyperbaric chambers, through ozone therapy, you charge up your mitochondria. Your mitochondria is basically your powerhouses for your cells. So you basically repair faster. You have more energy, right? So it's stimulating your body to repair faster. Right. So depending on which biohacks you are, there's cold therapy, which gets your body to burn more calories, right? To actually reset your mind, to reset your hormones. So a lot of these biohacking strategies, they get your body to, it's almost like a helping step to get your body to repair itself faster, right? Rather than just saying, I'm just going to change my diet and I'm going to exercise more. For 80%, that might work. Like I said, the 80-20% rule, for 80%, that might work. But for the people, the 20% that's been having problems for the last 10, 20, 30 years, I'm sorry, exercising more and just changing your diet is not going to fix it. Sometimes it can actually make things worse.
Oh, so what's an example of a way exercising more can, because I think most people believe you have to exercise longer and harder to get results, when in fact, that's not actually true.
It isn't. And it really bothers me. It's like you have the whole calories in, calories out. And, to me, that's a fallacy, right? Because who's determining, like there's some equation that you can determine calories, but it's all BS, to be honest. They're just guessing, right? And things that are high nutrition could be high calorie, right? While things that have no nutrition is 0 calorie, right? Like you're eating all these ultra processed foods, 0 calorie, no nutrition, right? So here you are, if you're thinking, well, I'm going to have less calories, work out more to burn off the calories. Now your body doesn't have to fuel to repair your body. It doesn't have to fuel to power you through the workout. And then after the workout, what people don't realize is when you work out, the way you get stronger, the way you build muscles, you have micro tears. That's what you want. You want to tear the muscles, and then it repairs itself, right? But imagine you don't have the tools or the raw ingredients to repair your muscles. And the next day you go at it again, even harder, right? Thinking, well, I'm going to need to burn off more calories, right? So for me, I think for people that are competing in competitions like pro athletes or, bodybuilding, for show, whatever, yes, I think working out is important, right? But there's at a certain point, it's like just because you got 6-pack abs, you got buns of steel, doesn't mean you're healthy. You could still literally be rotting inside.
Yes, appearances are not
Yes.
deceiving.
Unfortunately, that's what everyone goes for. But like it's interesting. If you look at a lot of these influencer models, that's really thin. A lot of them is PCOS. They got hormone dysfunction, and sometimes they go on and they'll tell you, it's like, how can you look like that in a bikini and have PCOS or have a hormone or hypothyroid or whatever? It's like you would think that you're healthy because that's the way you look, but because that's the way they look, they are actually not getting the nutrition they need. They're overworking out. They're getting that look, but literally you're destroying yourself from the inside out.
That's not conducive to longevity.
No, it isn't. And it's to me, it's funny. I grew up in the 80s. I have, we love Arnold Schwarzenegger. I love Stallone, as actors. All right. I'm not going political anymore. And if you look at their peak, oh my God, like Rocky, he was amazing. Like, Sylvester Stallone. But if you look at him now, muscle, you cannot keep that muscle tone forever. And when that starts turning to fat, oh my God, you look much worse, right? Look at all the professional athletes out there, like at the peak of the game, they're fit. And now all of them are probably gained double their weight. I don't really want to name any professional athletes, but there are a few basketball stars, like the best of the best. And now they just, they're doing Weight Watcher commercials, it's horrible, right? Yeah. Because, one, they're getting paid to do what they're doing back in the day, but once you're not getting paid anymore, you just let everything go. And that's the thing, right? One of the things that I always like to share with people is, and this is something I learned from one of the scientists that I learned from when I was studying functional nutrition and supplements, is he says the body's sort of like a thermostat, right? You know how you turn the thermostat up and your body will go to that temperature. So you set it at 78, your thermostat's going to try to set it at 78. What people don't realize is when you let things go and then you gain weight, like over the holidays. I'm always joking, like from Thanksgiving to Christmas, you gain back all the weight you lost in the first 10 months. Right. And a lot of times you gain more, right? And what people don't realize, the highest weight that you gain, to say you drop down to 160 and then you go back to 175. 175 is that new thermostat setting. Your body now is going to say, I'm comfortable at 175. That's where I want to go holistically. Right. So now you have to work so much harder to bring yourself back down to 160 because your body thinks 175 is the normal. Right. So you should never let yourself completely go, because whatever your highest weight is, that's where your body wants to go to. And I think that's why so many people have so many problems when they're like 200, 300, 400 pounds. They always gain it all back at the end, because that is where the body is set as thinking that's where it should be going to.
Is there a way to reset that thermostat setting?
Yes, there is. Intermittent fasting, like extended water fasting helps, right? You basically have to train your body to look for a different fuel source, right? So, right, because most people are dependent on sugar for fuel, right? And to be honest, it's like if you're vegan or vegetarian, which is great. I'm not bashing any of these different ways of eating. Your body's probably dependent on sugar for fuel because they don't eat a lot of fat. Right? You're not eating meat, you're not eating seafood, there's not a lot of fat, right? You're not eating dairy products. So the body is totally dependent on sugar for fuel, right? So, you can still be overweight and get fat by just because you're vegan or vegetarian. That's why a lot of people, if you look at them, it's interesting. I'll go to Cheesecake Factory, for instance, and I love, one of my habits, I'm a people watcher, and I'll be looking at the people, and the most people that are the hugest, they're eating a very small salad. And that's the worst thing that you can do, because now your body is thinking, well, I'm starving and I'm not going to burn fat, right? You literally actually need to eat more to fuel the body to burn the fat, right? So a lot of people are getting the wrong strategies. And, when you're starving the body's going to hold on because it wants to survive. You may not live a good life, but it wants to survive. And it's going to hold on to everything, regardless if it's healthy or not inside your body to survive. So if you're eating less, doesn't mean you're going to lose weight. If anything, it can potentially cause more problems.
Yeah. Wow. This is good information. Hey, Andy, I think it's time for us to take a quick break. But when we come back, I'd love to get some strategic tips, general tips for people that you can recommend to help us kind of shift our mindset and shift our bodies. So
I love that.
So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing Coolness, Pearlescent Face and Eye Serum Cream. This powerhouse combines the antioxidative power of schisandra berries, the glow of pearl powder, and the hydrating wonders of dragon's blood extract. It's like a time machine for your skin, making it radiant, firm, and oh so smooth. Inspired by ancient Chinese traditions and backed by modern nutritional science, this serum cream is perfect for dry, mature, and aging skin. It's time to unlock your inner glow with Coolness. Treat your skin to the best of both worlds today.
Everything we're made of contains light. From the sun that feeds our world to the energy that flows within us. With LifeWave X39, we've found a way to put that light to work. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality. By gently stimulating the skin with light, our non-invasive, non-transdermal X39 patches help you conquer your active lifestyle and pave a new way to vibrant health. Becoming a powerhouse is easier than you think. It all starts with your body and a little help from light. Place one LifeWave X39 patch on the body. Apply the patch to clean, dry skin in the morning. Patches may be worn for up to 12 hours before discarding. Keep well hydrated while using this product. Harness your natural potential. Reclaim youthful energy. Live long, live well, live young with LifeWave X39. Be the light. LifeWave.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. So Andy, so we have to listen to our own bodies, and I think we intuitively know, like I know myself, if I'm craving protein, I need that. I listen to that my body's telling me. So what are some tips that we can do to help get ourselves out of that famine state, putting our bodies into a famine state that actually works against us? And
I think when it comes, like that whole allopathic route doesn't even talk about this, right? They always talk about how important sugar or glucose is as a fuel source. And in general, it's very important. Don't get me wrong, right? But what people don't realize is your body can always use sugar as a fuel source, even if you're not eating it, because your body's always storing it in your liver, in your muscle, in your fat, right? So if it runs out, it's going to go in there and grab what you got for a fuel source, right? It can convert anything into sugar for fuel, right? What's more important that a lot of people don't talk about, and more people are talking about this now. If you follow functional nutritionists and stuff like that, functional doctors, they always talk about your bodies should be like a hybrid car, right? You have two fuel sources. You can burn fat for fuel, or you can burn sugar for fuel. And they'll say your body's metabolically efficient if you can burn both. But most people have forgotten how to burn fat, even though that's how our bodies were designed, because we are always pumping our bodies with sugar. Like if you're eating throughout the day, you're constantly feeding your body sugar because everything breaks down to sugar, right? So in which case, why does the body need to burn fat? Because it knows in 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you're going to snack on some Cheerios or whatever it may be, or granola bar, and you're going to have sugar again, right? And I think that is the biggest problem that I've seen when I started studying, longevity, nutrition, and stuff like that. Is there's still a lot of dietitians, a lot of nutritionists, a lot of doctors saying you should be eating throughout the day to keep your blood sugar level. And different camps. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving medical advice. I'm talking about what I'm seeing on all the studies on longevity. If you're keeping your sugar high throughout the day, guess what? Your body's never going to try to tap into your fat for fuel because sugar is such an easy source for fuel, right? So, the first thing that I would tell for most people is you really don't need to be eating all the time, right? And a lot of times when you're feeling hungry, because it's sort of funny, you start from, well, I'm craving for protein. You know your body, so you know what you actually crave. But for most people, when they're hungry, when they feel hungry, it doesn't mean that the body is hungry. When your body is really intuitively smart, when you're feeling hungry, your body actually needs a nutrient, right? So it's like I may be low in vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin E, whatever. I'm just picking examples, right? So your body say, hey, I'm hungry. I need some vitamin C, right? Maybe you should eat some oranges, some strawberries, some grapes, or whatever. But here you are, you're gonna grab some Cheerios or which has no vitamin C. Guess what? You're still hungry because your body is asking for vitamin C, but you have that disconnect. You don't know what your body needs.
Oh.
Right? So that's where it gets into is like once you start weeding your body for sugar for fuel and you become a little bit more intuitive listening what you need, you actually get a better understanding what your body needs, right? So, the best way to start that, like for most people, they should be doing some form of intermittent fasting.
And so for people who aren't sure what that means, they hear fasting and they immediately, I was guilty of this until I knew you.
Yeah.
Like that, wait, no food, so what exactly is intermittent fasting?
Yeah, so intermittent fasting just means you in a 24-hour day, just 24 hours, right? There's a certain period that you're not going to be eating, right? So you have a fasting window, which is the time you're not eating, and an eating window, right? So a lot of times what I tell people to do is you should start with a 12-12, right? And then you say, well, I'm not going to eat for 12 hours. Like, and I was saying, well, how long do you sleep a night? He said, well, I sleep 8 hours. Well, that's 8 of the 12 hours already. You know what I'm saying, right? It's like, all we need to do is find 2 more hours on either side, and you're fasting for 12 hours. It's not that hard to do. If you're sleeping at 10 o'clock, finish eating at 8 o'clock. Now you got 10 hours of fasting. And then when you get up at 8 o'clock, don't eat till 10 o'clock. Automatically, 12 hours is a good start. Like that's where I tell most people to do it. Just start with a 12-12. And if you can start doing that, then your body will, one, without eating all the time, your body's going to have time to rest and digest, which is very important, right? And then 2 is if you're starving the body a little bit, then the body will start saying, well, I'm not getting sugar all the time. It's going to start eating the sugar that's stored up. And over time, you will take away some of the reserve. And then at some point, you may start tapping into fat, right? So when you start intermittent fasting, that's why it's called intermittent. At some point, you want to extend the fasting window, like maybe 12 to 14 hours to 16 hours and have a shorter eating window. When I work with people, it's like that may take, for some people, they could just jump right into it. For other people, it may take weeks, right? It may take, 2-3 weeks to go from a 12-hour, eating window to shrink it down to an 8-hour eating window, in which case you're not eating for 16 hours, right? But the longer you fast, the better chance that your body actually has to repair itself, right? And there are studies that are so amazing. If you don't eat for 24 hours, right, 24 to 36 hours, your body goes into autophagy, which means your body has this almost like trash cleaning system. It'll actually start eating up all the bad cells and all the garbage. And that's what happens when you don't eat, right? Because the body's, well, I don't got nothing to eat. Let's eat these bad cells here, 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 and here. And that's how your body actually repairs itself. But the only problem is most people are eating something every hour on the hour and until they're sleeping. And then something they sleep, they'll eat something before they sleep, right? And in which case your body's not even, it's not even resting and repairing. It's still trying to digest food while you're falling asleep, right?
Mm-hmm. That's funny. I've always been if I'm sick, I do not eat.
Yes.
Person. And when I remember being little and my grandmother trying to force me to eat because I needed to eat because I was sick. Good. And in my head, I was like, no. And I never eat when I'm sick. And so I'm thinking that's my natural way of repair. My body's trying to repair.
Exactly.
Instead of having to put energy into digestion.
Exactly. And then like a lot of people say, oh, maybe some chicken soup or whatever. Like back in the day, chicken soup is real chicken soup, right? Now you're getting, you're getting the nutrients from the chicken, the minerals and everything to repair yourself, but you don't need to digest the food. It's all liquid, right? So it's easy for your body to absorb the nutrients. So your body does actually starts repairing itself. But it comes down to like how fast can repair itself is how heavily toxed up you are with the toxins, first of all, right? So, of course, when I'm working with people, listening to the symptoms, we try to figure out what the sources of, the poisons that are in their body. And then, for others, once we figure that out, it's like, well, I'm still not repairing as fast as I can. That's when we start looking at biohacks, right? Ways to elevate your body to repair itself faster, right? And we're always looking for ways that are using light, frequency, and stuff like that. And, if you've been seeing some of our LifeWave commercials, that's a product that I was introduced to 2.5 years ago. And it's so amazing because it's basically using your body's own light and heat energy to get your body to create peptides that elevate your health and make you feel better, right? With staying compliant without getting in trouble, but basically it's getting your body to do what it's supposed to do, right? I think, most people's bodies, they've forgotten what they need to do, right? And it's because of all the fast food, it's all the bad habits, the late nights, right? The unhealthy lifestyle, overworking out, because if you're overworking out, your body cannot repair itself. That can actually bring you going downhill, and a lot of people don't realize that, right? Or even, like I said, depending on your diet, you may not be getting all the nutrients you want. So when I work with people and they say, well, what's the best diet? I said, well, they're all good. You just need to basically fill in the gaps, right? For every type of diet, vegan, vegetarian, carnivore, whatever, there are gaps that you're going to be missing, right? As long as you fill in the gaps through, vitamins, nutritional supplements, or whatever, you're golden, right? Like, for instance, for a lot of people that are vegan, they're not going to get all the amino acids that they need. You eat an egg, you get all the essential amino acids. But if you're vegan, you literally have to eat like 5 or 6 different types of fruits and vegetables a day to get the same nutrients as one egg, right? So it's like, how much easier is that? Like for me and Minna, we eat 2-3 eggs a day. It's like, well, I don't need to eat anything else, and my body gets everything it needs. I enjoy eating, so I will eat something else, but technically I don't. But if you're just eating some type of salad or you're munching away on some nuts, well, you're getting most of what your body needs, but not everything. And that's where, that whole domino effect happens. It's like, if you do this over a long period of time, your body's getting more and more deficient when it needs. And that's when you start turning on bad genes. That's when you start developing Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart conditions, and even cancer.
Oh my goodness. So, we can be a lot more proactive then.
Oh, for sure.
With our bodies and it starts by listening, it seems like. And so then if we come to you, we start with what, like some kind of a blood test or something to see.
Yeah, so for me, I love working with people to see what's going on, and blood panel tests are ways of, it's your report card to see what's going on inside your body, right? And unfortunately, for most people, when they see the doctor, they get a full physical, full blood test once every year or every 2 years, right? That's sort of saying, well, I made a lifestyle change, but I'm not going to know if it made any difference until 2 years later, right? So, the first step for most people is if you have good healthcare, try to get your healthcare to pay for it. But you should be getting panels every 6 months, because otherwise, the lifestyle change, like the more exercise or eating 2 eggs a day, how do you know that's making a difference without actually comparing the panels, right? The second thing, as a function, looking at through a functional nutrition lens, right, as a practitioner and how doctors look at it, it isn't just good or no good. Most doctors say, oh, you're all good. And that just means that it's not high enough for them to give you medication yet. So that's just good, right? But for us, it's like, well, you're really close to needing medication. This is the range you need to be. So we look at things at a much more narrow range. And if you're falling outside that range, there's a problem. But we also look at everything as connected. If you look at doctors, you got bone specialists, you got heart specialists, you got brain specialists, right? So they all look at it as only one piece. But when we're looking through a functional nutrition lens, we're connecting all the body parts together. So this blood test, including this blood test, can lead to this solution, right? But doctors don't look at that. They just look at it as piecemeals, right? Oh, you got a liver problem or you got a kidney problem. Well, maybe you don't have a liver problem. Maybe you have a gut problem that's causing that liver problem, right? So you have to look at it almost like as a detective, and that's what we do, right? When we're looking at a blood panel test, and then diving into the history, then we get a really good idea why your blood panels look so bad, and then what are the next logical steps to get you back on the right condition, right track. And a lot of times it's not going to be a silver bullet. Everyone wants a silver bullet. So just give me, tell me the protocol that's going to work. And I was saying, well, if you fall into 80%, maybe you can jump on a vegan diet or a carnivore diet and it'll work. But I can guarantee you, if you're having a problem, more than likely you're in that 20%.
Right. That makes sense. I love that you individualize everything. That's amazing, because that's missing, and that's important. We're all different, and we need, we're not just flesh, we're individuals. So that's amazing.
Right. But one of the things that, I'm very excited moving on to this year is, like me and Minna, we always have all these biohacking tools. And of course, we love the LifeWave because that's easily accessible. But, a lot of these biohacking tools we used to use at home only, starting in a month or so, we're going to be announcing we are going to be working with Chiro to start offering some of the services that we use ourselves to help people biohack, stack, and elevate their chances for better health and longevity too.
Ah, that's excellent. But you have to be where you are, right?
Well, to start, ultimately, my goal, we talked about it. My goal is to help 2 million people around the world. So my vision, let's start local in Katy. And if I got my way, we'll be opening up more of these wellness clinics around the world.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yes.
That'd be amazing. Yeah. And we can find them too, maybe in our local areas. So
exactly.
We know what to look for if we talk to you. So how do we find you out in the world so that we can talk to you?
Yeah, so the best way is, Chronically Healthy Life is my main website. But everyone can schedule a free 30-minute consult with me at longevitywithandy.com. We can see if we're a good fit. I don't work with everybody. If you're the type of person that wants the medical way out or the magic pill, we may not be a fit. But if you're more of a person that wants to do a little bit of detective work to find out where you are and why you are today, I love to work with you. We work with the people that is usually more down the route where they have more conditions. But, I would love to work with people before they get that bad.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the QR code, does that go to your calendar?
Yes, that goes straight to my Longevity of Andy. And like I said, it's a free 30-minute consult. And, that's probably the best way to go. And, we can devise a plan if you want to work together.
Well, I can personally attest that Andy, what you see is what you get. He is so genuine, and he really, really cares. This is his area, and he knows his stuff. So, Andy, thank you for letting us get to know you a little bit today.
Thank you, Kristy.
It's been fun. Well, everybody, that's a wrap. Please join us every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time on E360TV.com on the Vitality TV network, or you can find us on YouTube at Chronically Healthy Life. Swing by chronicallyhealthylife.com this week for your free consultation with Andy. Do it. You won't regret it. Or check out our new healing skincare line at coolness.com. Until then, stay vibrant, stay fierce, and stay ridiculously, unapologetically, chronically healthy. See you next week.
See you next week.